It was one of those lazy afternoons when the world feels like it's standing still. The kind of day where nothing much happens and no one expects it to. The sky was overcast, casting a dull silver light over the lot. Inside the Redwood Riders Motorcycle Club garage, the air smelled like warm motor oil, steel, and last week's coffee. There were 3 bikes up on lifts, the kind that had been half dismantled and waited patiently for attention. Tommy, who'd been with the club longer than most of the guys had been alive, was deep in the belly of a stubborn engine, sleeves rolled up, grease marking the years of experience that lived in his hands. Rick sat on an overturned milk crate near the big bay door, sipping a soda and scrolling through a phone he barely knew how to use. Eli, the youngest of the bunch, no more than 25, was sorting bolts into plastic trays by size. It was quiet, almost meditative. Then she came running in. She didn't walk in and ask for help. She ran, fast, desperate, like something was chasing her. A small girl, maybe 12 years old, with tangled red hair and a backpack that had slipped halfway off her shoulder. Her sneakers skidded across the garage's concrete floor as she stumbled forward. Every man in the room looked up. Tommy froze with a wrench in his hand. Rick stood. Eli knocked over a tray of screws without noticing. The girl came to a full stop in the middle of the garage, chest heaving, her eyes wild and glassy with something no child should have to carry. Tommy took the lead, his voice calm but firm, the way you speak to a spooked animal. "You okay, sweetheart? Are you hurt?" She shook her head, but her whole body trembled. She scanned their faces, trying to decide if these men in leather vests and oil-stained hands were safe. It took her a moment, but when she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "She's in the trunk." Every sound in the garage stopped. Even the buzzing radio in the corner seemed to hold its breath. Rick stepped forward, slow, steady. "Who's in the trunk?" The girl swallowed hard. "My friend," she said. "Her name's Vanessa. I saw him put her in there. Please, you have to help her."
She started to talk faster, the words tumbling out. "It was a silver car, beat up, 1 hubcap missing. I saw it at school today. She got in after class. I thought she was going home, but then I saw the car again at the gas station. She wasn't in the front seat anymore. But I heard something, like a thump, from the back, from the trunk." Tommy narrowed his eyes. "Silver sedan, no hubcap on the front passenger side?" She nodded quickly. "That's the one." He stood straighter. "I saw that car. Passed by here maybe half an hour ago. Slow roll, like he didn't want to be noticed. Driver had sunglasses on, even though it's cloudy." He hesitated. Didn't think much of it at the time. Rick was already reaching for his phone. "We need to move," he said, voice low and certain. "Eli, stay here with her. Tommy, you're with me." The girl's eyes followed them, wide and pleading. "What's your name?" Eli asked gently, crouching down. "Alice," she said. "Alice, you did the right thing coming here," he told her. "We're gonna find your friend. I need you to stay with me. Can you do that?" She nodded, but her hands were still shaking. The garage that had felt so sleepy a moment ago was now a hive of quiet urgency. Jackets were zipped, keys grabbed, engines fired up in the parking lot like thunder cracking open the sky. Radios crackled with check-ins and road directions. Within minutes, 3 bikes peeled out in different directions, kicking up gravel and exhaust, moving with purpose. Inside, Eli gently guided Alice to a folding chair by the garage door. "Take a seat. Catch your breath. You want some water?" She nodded. He grabbed a bottle from the mini-fridge and placed it in her hands. She drank in shaky gulps. "You and Vanessa go to school together? She your friend?" Alice nodded again. "Best friend, since kindergarten." Her voice was soft but steady now. "She didn't want to get in that car, I could tell. But the man said something to her. She just went. I didn't know what to do." Eli's heart sank. "Do you know who the man was?" Alice hesitated, then spoke slowly. I think it was her dad. I've only seen him a few times. He doesn't live with them anymore."
That changed everything. Eli didn't say anything, but his expression tightened. He could feel the weight of what that might mean, a family situation. maybe even a custody fight, things that get real messy real fast. Outside, the roar of bikes faded into the distance. Inside, Alice sat in silence, watching the empty road. Her job was done, for now. She had run as fast as her legs could carry her, told the truth, and found people willing to act. Now all she could do was wait. It didn't take long for the sound of tires to tear through the quiet. A car came screeching into the lot, its brakes screaming as it stopped in front of the garage. The engine was still running when a woman jumped out, eyes wide, hair wind-blown, panic clinging to her like smoke. "Alice!" she shouted, sprinting toward the door. "Alice, where have you—" She stopped cold the moment she stepped inside and saw the scene. Her daughter seated in the corner of a biker garage, holding a bottle of water like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. "Mom," Alice said softly, her voice suddenly very small. "Vanessa's gone. Her dad took her. She's in the trunk of his car." The woman's face went pale. Her knees buckled slightly before she caught herself on the edge of the workbench. Eli stood, placing himself gently between her and the panic. "Ma'am, your daughter told us what she saw. We've already sent people out looking. They know what to look for. What we need now is calm and any information you might have." Alice's mother covered her mouth with both hands. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Julie! I have to call Julie!" Eli tilted his head. "Julie?" The woman nodded quickly. "Vanessa's mom. They live 2 blocks from us." She pulled out her phone with shaking fingers and began to dial. Julie arrived in under 5 minutes. Her old Honda came flying into the lot like a storm on wheels. The driver's door swung open before the engine was even off. She ran straight into the garage, her voice cracking as she shouted, "Where is she? Where's my daughter?" Alice's mother caught her just before she collapsed, wrapping both arms around her. "They're out there looking," she said, trying to sound strong, even as her own voice wavered. "Alice saw everything."
Julie's eyes locked onto Alice, who shifted in her seat. Her composure had started to crack at the edges. Still, when Julie knelt down in front of her, Alice sat up straighter and spoke. "He picked her up from school," she said quietly. "The teachers let her go because they knew him. But she didn't look right. She was stiff. She wouldn't even wave back when I did. Then I saw the car again, at the gas station near the railroad tracks. She wasn't in the front seat anymore. I heard something from the trunk, a thump. I just knew it was her." Julie's hand flew to her mouth. The sound that escaped her was half sob, half breathless gasp. Eli moved closer, calm and focused. "Ma'am," he said gently, "we need details, full name, anything that can help us." "David Turner," she said, her voice choking on the words. "Her father." Eli looked at Alice's mom, then back at Julie. Recognition flashed across his face. "Turner," he repeated. "Used to come by the cookouts sometimes, right? Tall guy, worked on motorcycles, friendly." Julie nodded slowly. "That was him. That's who he used to be. But he's not that man anymore. He hasn't been for a long time." "Tell me what's going on. Start from the beginning." Julie took a shaky breath. "We separated 9 months ago. It wasn't mutual. He didn't handle it well. He got laid off last year from the plant. Used to do maintenance work. After that, things went downhill fast. He gambled, he drank, he stopped showing up for visitations, or when he did, he was different, distant, off. I tried to keep things civil for Vanessa's sake, but it kept getting worse." "Where's he been living?" Eli asked. "I don't know," Julie admitted. "Last I heard, he was renting a room near the industrial zone, but he'd come around sometimes, unannounced. He kept saying we could fix it, that we could be a family again if I just gave him one more chance." Her voice hardened. "But time doesn't fix someone who doesn't think they're broken." Eli's eyes narrowed, steady and calm. "Have you filed anything through the court?"
Restraining order. I submitted it 2 weeks ago, she replied bitterly. He found out last Monday. Showed up to the house, yelling. Said I was trying to steal his daughter. Told me I'd regret it if I kept pushing. She paused, her voice cracking. I thought he was bluffing. I really did.
Alice's mom squeezed her shoulder gently, offering silent support. Eli pulled out his phone and tapped out a quick message. David Turner, he said aloud as he typed. Separated father, volatile, possible custody dispute. Approach with caution. Within seconds, a reply came from Tommy. Knew the guy, used to help around the garage, good with engines. Hard to believe it's the same man. Eli looked back at Julie. Do you think he'd hurt her? Julie's eyes filled again, and for a long moment she didn't answer. Finally, she whispered, I don't think he wants to, but I don't know what he's capable of anymore. When someone's desperate enough, when they feel like they've lost everything, they can do anything. That was all Eli needed to hear. By late afternoon, the sky had started to dim, not from sunset, but from the kind of thick gray clouds that promise rain but never quite deliver. Tommy's radio crackled to life as he rode down Route 9, the static giving way to Rick's voice. Silver sedan spotted, eastbound, no front hubcap, headed toward the old industrial lot near Lakeview. Tommy didn't waste a second. He tapped the side of his helmet to confirm, turned at the next exit, and opened up the throttle. They all knew that area. Abandoned trailer homes, rusted fences, empty dirt roads no one bothered to pave anymore. 15 minutes later, Tommy pulled up to the lot, where Rick and 2 others from the club were already standing near the edge of the property. The silver car was there, parked at an angle in front of a crumbling trailer with its curtains drawn tight. The missing hubcap was the final confirmation. Tommy shut off his engine. The only sounds now were wind, gravel shifting under boots, and the distant hum of highway traffic. Car's been here about 20 minutes. No movement since. We heard a voice inside earlier, a man talking to himself maybe. Couldn't make out the words. Tommy nodded, then turned as a dust-covered pickup pulled in behind them. Eli stepped out of the driver's side. Julie was with him, pale, hands clenched tightly in her lap. She climbed out slowly, eyes fixed on the trailer like it might explode if she blinked. Is she in there? Her voice was barely above a whisper.
We believe so, Tommy replied, but we haven't approached yet. Law enforcement is on their way. Should be here in 20 minutes. I can't wait that long, she said, already stepping forward. Julie, Rick called firmly, you have to stay back. We don't know what he's thinking in there. We don't know what state he's in. I do, she said, not looking away from the trailer. He's scared. He thinks this is his last shot, but if I talk to him, he might listen. I've done it before. The men exchanged uncertain glances. No one liked it, but they also knew the truth. Sometimes the only person who could reach a drowning man is the one he's still convinced can save him. Tommy stepped closer to her. You go with me. You stay behind me. You let me lead, and if he so much as raises his voice, we're done. Understood? Julie nodded. Understood. They approached together. The gravel crunched softly underfoot. The air smelled like rust, mildew, and old garbage, the kind of smell that settles into places time forgot. Tommy kept one hand near his belt, just in case. When they reached the small wooden steps, Julie took a breath and knocked. No response. She knocked again, louder. David, she called, it's me. Please, I need to see Vanessa. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the sound of a bolt sliding back. The door cracked open. David Turner stood behind it, his face hollow and drawn, hair matted, t-shirt hanging off him like he had lost weight he couldn't afford to lose. His eyes met Julie's, and for a second, everything around them went still. She's fine, he said, but his voice trembled. Then let me see her, Vanessa replied.
Her voice was steady, but her hands were clenched at her sides. David hesitated, then stepped back and opened the door. Inside, the trailer was dim, lit only by the gray light filtering through broken blinds. The space was cramped, messy. A half-empty bottle sat on the counter. A sleeping bag was spread out on the floor. And there, on a worn mattress in the corner, was Vanessa. Her knees were pulled to her chest. She held a stuffed bear to her stomach like a shield. Her eyes were wide and dry, like she'd run out of tears hours ago. Julie stepped inside, slowly, cautiously. "It's okay, baby. I'm here." At the sound of her mother's voice, Vanessa blinked, then rushed forward and threw herself into her arms. Her small frame shook, but she didn't cry, not yet, not while she was still trying to believe she was safe. Tommy stepped forward, gently guiding David outside. "Sheriff's almost here," he said. "If you cooperate, this goes easier." David nodded. He didn't resist. He looked more like a man who had already given up than someone being taken in. Back outside, Rick's radio clicked again. "ETA 5 minutes," came the deputy's voice. Tommy looked toward the road, then back at the trailer. Julie was still holding her daughter, both of them sitting quietly on the edge of the old mattress. And for the first time all day, the air felt just a little bit lighter. The courtroom was cold, not just from the air conditioning, but from the weight of everything it represented. David sat at the defense table, wearing a borrowed suit that didn't quite fit. His hands were folded in his lap, his eyes fixed on the floor. He didn't argue, didn't cry, just listened as the charges were read. Custodial interference, child endangerment, unlawful restraint of a minor. When the judge asked if he understood, he replied, "Yes, Your Honor," in a voice so low it barely carried. Julie took the stand. Her voice was steady, though it carried the weight of exhaustion. She didn't try to vilify him. She didn't call him a monster. What she said was simple. He didn't want to hurt her. He just wanted to keep her, to freeze time, to go back to when we were a family. But you can't kidnap your way back into someone's life. The ruling was firm. David would enter a 60-day inpatient rehabilitation program, followed by outpatient therapy. He would be granted supervised visitation only after his treatment began. 18 months of probation, and any future contact with Vanessa would be earned, not assumed. When it was over, David nodded, stood up, and walked out with the officers without ever looking back. 2 months later, just as summer was starting to loosen its grip on the air, David walked into the Redwood Riders' garage at exactly 7 o'clock in the morning.
Clean-shaven, sober, with eyes that looked clearer than they had in years. Tommy met him at the door and handed him a rag. "Oil filters are in that bin. Get started." No welcome speech, no dramatic moment, just a second chance, waiting quietly at the end of a socket wrench. The first few weeks were slow. David spoke only when spoken to. He kept his head down, stayed late, came in early. He scrubbed parts, sorted inventory, and never once touched a drink. At first, the others avoided eye contact, unsure how to treat him, but over time, something started to shift. A question here, a joke there. One morning, Rick handed him a coffee. No words, just a gesture. It was the closest thing to forgiveness David had received in years. Vanessa, meanwhile, was finding her own way back. Her therapist explained that trauma doesn't always look like nightmares or screaming fits. Sometimes it looks like silence. Vanessa didn't talk much anymore, but she drew. At first, just doodles in the corners of her schoolwork, then full sketches, birds, trees, a mother holding a child's hand. Julie bought her markers and watercolors and sketchbooks. Alice came over after school most days, not to talk, just to sit beside her and draw too. One afternoon, Alice turned to Vanessa and said, "That's really good. You should frame that." Vanessa didn't speak, but a small smile tugged at the corner of her mouth.
It was the first real one in weeks. A few Saturdays later, Alice and Vanessa walked into the garage together. They found Tommy working near the back and asked if they could set up an art table in the corner, somewhere to draw while you guys work. Tommy looked at them, looked at the cluttered space, and finally said, "Sure, just stay clear of the bikes." By the next weekend, there was a folding table near the tool bench, 2 chairs, and a plastic bin full of colored pencils and paper donated by the club families. David saw them there one afternoon. Vanessa was laughing at something Alice said. He froze in the doorway, watching her from across the room. He didn't approach, he didn't speak. He just stood there, holding a bag of trash, and let the sound of her laughter settle into him like sunlight through a dusty window. Weeks passed, then months. David never missed a shift, never raised his voice, never gave anyone a reason to doubt. Slowly, the tension softened. Slowly, he became part of something again. Then, one Sunday, Father's Day came. David spent the morning at a recovery meeting, then went home to his small apartment. Around noon, there was a knock. When he opened the door, Vanessa stood there, holding a homemade card. Julie was in the car behind her. Vanessa handed him the envelope. On the front was a drawing, 2 stick figures holding hands. Inside, written in careful handwriting, were 5 words: "Happy Father's Day. I believe in you." He didn't speak, just knelt down and pulled her into a hug, gentle, careful, like holding something he wasn't sure he deserved. Julie didn't say anything, but from the car she gave him a nod, not quite forgiveness, but maybe something close. He put that card on his refrigerator, right next to his 30-day sober chip. Some mornings he'd stand there longer than necessary, coffee in hand, just looking at it. Because some things, once broken, can still be put back together. Not the same, but standing. Alice trusted what she saw. Vanessa was brave enough to survive. And David, he chose to change. Not because he had to, but because someone believed he still could.